Alright, where do I even start with this one? Hello you sex beasts, welcome back to War Thunder. This is the Me-163 and this is one of those aircraft that I never thought I would ever feature in a video. You see, my relationship with the Me-163 was mostly just ignorance. I was looking around after my latest video on the F9F Cougar. By the way, if you didn't see it, go watch it, it's on link on the description on the screen right now. Why do I always see the description? It's on the screen, god damn it, also on the description probably. But off topic. I was searching for another video, for another vehicle to review in a video. And I thought, hey, sales are going on, there's a 50% sale on, well, buying stuff for the German tech tree, so I thought, hey, why not get myself a couple of my first jets? I think I had unlocked the Me-163, but I hadn't bought it yet because I'm always low in silver line, so I thought, hey, let's get this little thing, might as well. And then I thought, hey, hold on. When's been the last time I actually flew this thing? And the thing is, in my, 3 years on War Thunder now? I think it's about 3 years, yeah. In my 3 years on War Thunder, I've maybe taken this thing out twice or 3 times. You see, the problem I always had with this aircraft was the limited fuel capacity. By the way, this is a rocket aircraft. It's not a conventional jet aircraft with an engine. It's a rocket aircraft, which means you have very limited fuel amounts. In this case, only 6 minutes. I think the Japanese counterpart only gets 4. Which, as you can tell, in RB isn't all that great. But here's the thing. The rocket engine is insanely powerful, and if you didn't notice just yet, this thing is insanely tiny and very, very light. So, I took it into game, and I was pleasantly surprised by the performance. You see, I always thought of this thing not being very good, but I always heard of people complaining that this thing was overpowered. And to some extent I can see why people think this thing is overpowered. It has some of the best climb rates I've ever seen of any aircraft in the game. It has probably the best acceleration out of any jet at these low speeds. It has a decent top speed, not quite top speed, but for an airport aircraft this thing can go very, very fast. I mean over 900 km per hour fast. And the agility. Oh my god, the agility. This thing can pull 13 Gs. Okay, to be fair, it can't really maintain the 13 Gs, but it can pull 13 Gs momentarily. In fact, what mostly hinders me with this aircraft in maneuvering is not the aircraft itself, but my pilot blacking out. And this is with a fully aced pilot, except for the cruise skill, for the qualifications themselves, where I don't have enough silver lines to buy at the moment. But yeah, this thing is insane. The flight performance of this thing is absolutely insane. Now, of course, it's limited to the amount of time you have as fuel. This is a liquid rocket engine. Essentially what the Germans did was combine 2 chemicals to create a jet exhaust, so to speak. In fact, this thing was designed originally to intercept the American bomber spam in real life. As such, it is also armored with 2 30-minute cannons, which we will touch on later on. But first of all, the flight time. You see, 6 minutes is not really all that much. A typical RB match takes around 15 to 20 minutes, which means, realistically, if you always use 100%, you are seeing yourself, if you survive to the end of the match of course, you are seeing yourself landing 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 times. This is one of those aircraft that you are constantly going back to the airfield to. Now, of course, the flight time can be extended with proper throttle control, and that's what most people do that have any kind of idea what to do with this aircraft. You climb at the start of the match, burn around 1 minute of fuel, Then you have 5 minutes left over, you're at 5 kilometers altitude, you can simply cut down to either to 0 for it and just use this thing as a glider pretty much. Or what I personally like to do is get down to 30% so that I essentially triple the times that I can fly this thing. But even so, in most combat situations you are going to pull up to 100% and you are going to burn your fuel. And oftentimes what happens is people don't really pay attention to how much fuel they have left and they crash on the way back to base, or don't even make it back to the base at all. Now, I did slightly touch on the guns before. As I said before, this thing was designed to intercept bombers. It was designed to get up to altitude as fast as possible and use 30mm cannons to rip bombers to shreds. And it can do that. There are a couple of problems with that. The guns featured on this aircraft are two Motorkanone 108s, which are the ones that have a very slow muzzle velocity. In fact, these cannons feel more like grenade launchers than cannons themselves. These are the same cannons as featured on the ME-262, with one major difference. You only get 2 of them. While the ME-262 kind of compensates for the low muzzle velocity by having a high volume of fire by just shooting 4 cannons at once and having good fire rate. I gotta say, the MK108s have a good fire rate. On the Komet, that doesn't really happen. The 2 guns just don't really put out enough projectiles in a short space of time. And it's a big problem. Oh, by the way, it only has 120 rounds. Yeah, you're going to run out of ammo and fuel very, very quickly. You see, the problems I have with these guns are, well, multiple. The damage, of course, is absolutely amazing. 30mm German Minengeschoss shells are some of the most destructive shells in the game. If the game registers them correctly, that is. Oftentimes I find myself hitting enemies but getting hits with no damage, or seeing my shells spark harmlessly off the aircraft. And this is aggravated the higher ping you have. In fact, one thing I definitely recommend you to do when you fly this aircraft is filter your servers to only include your local server. If you go anything above 100-150 ping, you are screwed. You see, whilst the guns have a decent fire rate for 30mm cannons and good damage, the lack of volume of fire by only having 2 cannons firing at the same time, combined with the low amount of ammunition and the extremely low muzzle velocity, make it actually very, very hard to even hit anything. There are what I like to think of 2 different aiming styles in War Thunder. You have the continuous aiming style, which essentially is you knowing your guns, being used to your guns and continuously tracking the lead on your enemy. That's something that you have to do with American 50 cals, for example, to do sustained combined, well, damage over time. And then you have the shoot in front of the enemy and make them wait to fly into the hail of bullets kind of aiming style, which is my personal aiming style since I switch around between different aircraft and the different guns so often. Neither of them really work with this aircraft. The muzzle velocity is too slow for continuous aiming, and the volume of fire is too low for the aim in front of the enemy style of aiming. Which means that either the enemy has to be very big and slow, aka bombers, which this thing was designed to destroy and it's very good at destroying bombers. The problem is, you barely face bombers. And more of that a little bit later. So either you hit very slow and big targets, or you hit targets that are not aware of you. If an enemy is slightly aware of you, and if they even know how to slightly use their roll key to evade, your shots, you're just going to miss all of your shots. Flying these aircraft, I found myself sitting on the tail of an enemy aircraft for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, trying to get a perfect shot in, just trying to bide my time. To get the perfect shot in, to not waste my ammo, and then the gun just spark, of course. This aircraft is just, it's a contrast. It has one of the best flight models I've ever seen out of any aircraft at this tier. It can cope with anything really. Of course, if you get up to 9.0, you're going to have some struggles, but it doesn't really suffer too much at 9.0 either. You can climb with enemy jets. Whilst you may not be able to catch them, if you energy threat them, you can outmaneuver them and you can out-accelerate them at low speeds. The problem is the fuel and the guns. You don't have enough fuel to really do sustained dogfights, which this thing is excellent at thanks to its just amazing maneuverability. And you don't have enough ammo or even the gun performance to really kill more than 1 enemy or 2. In fact, most of the time I kill a single enemy and I have to go back to base to rearm and to refuel because I either waste too many shots try to shoot an enemy that's trying to evade, or I spend too much time in the dogfight and run out of fuel. This aircraft is very limited in what it can do, and that is good, of course. If this thing was back in the day, fuel consumption didn't exist, at least not in arcade mode, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if it exists in RB mode, but I think so. But at least in the olden arcade days, this thing didn't consume any fuel, and you could just reload in the air, so it was kind of really overpowered. But now that you have these hearts, just stops, the heart stops with the performance of the aircraft. You cannot do so much anymore with it. And this is probably one of the aircraft that has the highest learning curves in War Thunder, which is a big problem given its situation in the tech tree. You see, the MA163 is probably going to be the first jet you are going to unlock. There are many people playing Germans, there are many people playing down the BF-109 line, and in order to even get to the legendary ME262, which I know a lot of people are playing this game just to get to the ME262, you have to go through this thing. And it's an 8.0 jet, which means it will face experienced pilots in 9.0 top tier jets. Not only that, this jet doesn't really play like any other jet, really. It's tough to use. And I gotta say, this is not the kind of jet you want to give to a new jet player. I'm guessing that the current situation we have here is either you have a very experienced pilot which can absolutely wreck face using the ME163 correctly, or you have the noob who just got into jet battles, is thrown into this thing, and of course he has absolutely no idea what to do with it. This is a tough aircraft to fly. This is a tough aircraft to really master. You can't just give this to a noob to jet battles. Jet battles in War Thunder are completely different from prop battles. At least in most cases. Before I went off, there's the one thing I did want to mention. This thing was designed to go up against bombers, right? So I thought, hey, this thing would actually be an ideal aircraft to hunt down Tu-4s. I mean, it has a climb rate to get up there easily, and it has the guns. 30 millicans do a lot of damage if you can hit them. And Tu-4 is a very large target. The problem is, you barely, actually, I'm not even sure you can go up against the Russians as the Germans. On most of the maps you play as a jet, the Germans play together with the Russians on the same team, which means, realistically, the only big slow bomber you could face is the B-29, and even then I'm not sure, because I'm pretty sure that's outside of the battle rating range of this thing, since this is an 8.0. But let's presume it is. This is the only big slow target it can get. The other bombers it can face are the B-57 and the Canberra. But they are jet bombers. They are fast, and they can evade. They are actually quite agile. So you're thrown into a game having an aircraft that's designed to intercept enemy bombers, and then you don't give it any bombers to intercept. You throw it into a fighter role, and okay, good. It has a flight performance to be an excellent fighter, but it doesn't have enough fuel. The guns aren't really good to be used as a fighter, and you don't have enough ammo. So it all boils down to this. The MA163 is one of the most fun aircraft you can fly, at the same time being one of the most frustrating aircraft you can fly. This is an aircraft that really should be at the end of some kind of tech tree. This is an aircraft that rewards knowledge, that rewards the capability to play, the understanding of playing jet battles. This is one of those aircraft that really can do very well in the hands of an experienced pilot, but definitely should by all means not be given to a new jet pilot. Gaijin, come on! Who had the genius idea to give this aircraft to a noob to jet battles? It doesn't go well. It just doesn't go well. You cannot give an 8.0 aircraft, which is as challenging to use as this thing is, to a noob. It doesn't work. So, in case you are one of those noobs to jet battles and you're thinking about picking up the M163, honestly, I personally would suggest you to skip it. Try to go for the ME262 if you can. The ME262A1 is a much better jet to learn jet combat with, at least in the early stages, than this thing is. However, if you absolutely insist on playing this thing, I can give you a couple of pointers, of course. So, first of all, fuel management, and this is very important. This is one of those aircraft where you have to constantly regulate your throttle. You can use 100% at the start of the battle, as I said before. Climb up to 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers, you're going to be there very quickly, and then kind of enter the glider mode. You can either shut down the engine completely, and completely save your fuel, or what I do is usually go around 30%. Even at 30% you can still accelerate past 500 km/h, which is just ideal combat speeds, so don't worry too much about that. Just keep your fuel gauge in mind, okay? Especially on big maps like Spain. Spain, by the way, is going to be the bane of your existence, just a fair heads up there. But especially on these big maps, you have to constantly keep an eye out for your fuel, okay? Okay. In dogfights, you can of course very easily regulate where you are. This is an action that's very easy to get behind an enemy with, be it a turn fighter or a speedster. You have the acceleration to catch up to enemies who got into an energy trap behind you and are now trying to run away from you. And you have the agility, combined with, well, of course, the turn time, just agility in general, of staying behind a turn fight. You can stay behind vampires, you can stay behind meteors, you can even dogfight multiple enemies at the same time. The problem is, you're going to have big issues with the guns. You have to have patience, you have to have big trigger patience. Make sure your shot is perfect. If you can, avoid at all trying to shoot enemies that are aware of you. Try to go for the enemies that are completely not aware of you or that are going very slow. Enemies that are engaged to your friendly fighters, stuff like that. If they start to evade, don't waste your shots. Be very patient. If there's no enemy around, of course you can stick behind them very easily. But make sure, and for the love of God, please, make sure you make your shots count. Because else, you're going to go back to the airfield 2, 3, 4 times in one match. Before you head off, I actually want to mention a little, let's say, secret trick I've liked to employ with this aircraft. People know the M163. This aircraft has been in the game for ages. And they know that when an M163 is low, slow, and heading back to its base, chances are it's running out of fuel. So most of the time you have enemies that are trying to focus down M163s that are in that situation, and for good reason. You don't want to let the M163 rearm. That's a dangerous gun taken out of the game if you can, if not shoot it down, at least occupy it long enough that it runs out of fuel. It is a thing. They cannot see how much fuel you have. And what I really like to do is pretend to be running out of fuel. Say I've been cruising around at 30% of 5 kilometers for 3 minutes. At least, here's the thing, at least 5 minutes must have passed in the game, alright? Or else they will get onto you. But imagine at least 5 minutes have passed in the game. You can simply cruise down, cut back on the throttle, do around 10%, 20%, 30%. Pretend. Just pretend that you're running out of fuel. Enemy is going to go behind you. Now, thankfully, the amazing agility of the M163 will make it very easy to evade that enemy. And hopefully, he will still come around, he will lose his energy, he will still think you are out of fuel. And he will lose all of his energy in an energy trap. Maybe he will even start dogfighting with you. And that's when you surprise him. That's when the trap springs, you put 100% and you shoot him down. So that's been the Me-163, one of the aircraft I did not think I would ever review, and honestly I am glad that I did. It's very fun to fly, but at the same time very challenging, which is something I personally really like. And hopefully I could enlighten you guys on some of the properties of this aircraft. But maybe, you know, I didn't really play this aircraft too much, and I probably have just masters of the Me-163 who are going to deny everything I said in the comments, are going to school you better. So definitely take a look at the comments and see what people think about this aircraft. But anyways guys, this has been it for today. If you want to check out my other videos, I did a video on the F9 F8 Cougar not too long ago. Also did a video on how to range find and aim your gun in Tank RB, which is really helpful, at least according to 90% of the comments of that video. Also, the video has officially been the most liked video on my channel. I think. I'm pretty sure, actually. Holy crap. If you're not subscribed just yet, why don't you do that? It's free. Enable notifications for the channel so that you never miss an upload. Like this video if you did. Comment if I was completely wrong or if you like this video, and I will see you in the next video. My name's been MikeGoesBoom. Thanks for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path along the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find